February 28th, 2026, 02:17 a.m. Tehran time. The city is asleep, but not deeply. It never is anymore. Even before the first explosion, there's a tension in the air, the kind you feel in your chest before a storm breaks. In a quiet apartment on the northern edge of Tehran, a phone lights up with a secure alert. Somewhere else, far above the Persian Gulf, a pilot adjusts his grip on the throttle. In Israel, deep underground, a command clock ticks toward zero. Then, the sky opens. Radar screens flare. Air defense operators shout bearings and altitudes. A low, distant thunder rolls across the capital. Not one blast, but many, layered, precise, deliberate. You don't hear chaos first, you hear order. This is not panic, this is execution. Within minutes, Iranian military sites, air defense nodes, missile storage facilities, command and control hubs are under attack. Not randomly, not symbolically. Each strike follows months, even years of intelligence mapping. Every target has a reason. Every coordinate has a history. And the people running this operation know exactly what this moment means. For decades, this kind of confrontation had been threatened, hinted at, rehearsed in simulations and speeches. But it always stopped short. Cyber attacks, proxy clashes, deniable strikes in distant deserts. Tonight is different. Tonight, the gloves are off. This is not a message, this is a declaration. In Israeli air bases, crews watch live feeds transmitted from drones already loitering above Iranian airspace. In U.S. command centers thousands of kilometers away, officers lean closer to their screens, silent now. The opening phase is underway. If it works, it will reshape the region. If it fails, the consequences will be uncontrollable. You can almost feel the weight of it, the collective breath held across capitals, markets, and ministries around the world. Because this isn't just about Iran, it's about credibility. For Israel, this moment has been building through years of warnings, red lines drawn, erased, then drawn again. Intelligence assessments that Iran's military infrastructure, and especially its missile and nuclear-related capabilities, were hardening, dispersing, going deeper underground. Delay, Israeli planners believed, only made the problem worse. For the United States, the calculation was colder, heavier. This was not a war it wanted, but one it had prepared for. Satellite coverage tightened, naval assets quietly repositioned, diplomacy narrowed to a whisper. When the order came, it wasn't emotional, it was procedural. And for Iran, the night shattered an assumption that had held for a long time, that escalation could be managed indefinitely, that adversaries would always stop short of full confrontation. They didn't. The strikes come in waves, first the systems that see, then the systems that speak, then the systems that shoot back. This is modern warfare, designed not to conquer territory, but to paralyze decision-making, to create minutes of confusion that feel like hours, to force commanders into choices before they've fully grasped what's happening. Inside Iranian command bunkers, officers scramble to confirm what is real and what is decoy. Reports conflict, some sites are silent, others are gone. Communications flicker. Someone orders retaliatory protocols to stand by. Someone else hesitates. That hesitation matters. Outside, civilians wake to shockwaves and distant sirens, not knowing what has been hit, only that something irreversible has begun. Because once the first missile crosses that line, there is no contained version of this war. This is the moment analysts will later call inevitable. But standing inside it, inevitability doesn't feel smooth or logical. It feels sharp, violent, unstable. And here's the uncomfortable truth most headlines won't tell you. No one involved believes this ends anything quickly. Not Israel, not the United States, not Iran.
They believe it starts something that will demand retaliation, something that will pull in allies, proxies, economies, shipping lanes, and civilian lives far from any battlefield. Something that will test air defenses, political resolve, and public patience. As dawn approaches over Tehran, smoke rises from specific points on the map, each one chosen, each one signaling intent. Iranian state media begins issuing statements, carefully worded, defiant, but incomplete. Military units across the country move to full alert. Missile crews wait for confirmation that may be already too late. And somewhere, in a hardened room filled with screens and quiet voices, a senior officer says the words everyone expected and no one wanted to hear. This is only phase 1. Because what comes next will not be decided in the air, but in how Iran responds. And Iran will respond.
The response doesn't come immediately. That delay, those empty minutes after the strikes, are the most dangerous part. Inside Iran's military command structure, alarms keep ringing long after the last impact. Operators reroute power, couriers run between rooms built to survive exactly this moment. Orders are repeated, clarified, rewritten. Nothing moves until leadership is certain of one thing. This is not a limited probe. This is not a warning shot. This is a coordinated opening blow. And once that realization settles in, restraint becomes a liability. By dawn, the decision is made. Missile units across Iran begin transitioning from concealment to readiness. Launch crews who have trained for years in silence now hear the words spoken aloud. Systems that were meant to deter are about to be used. Drones, cheap, numerous, expendable, are rolled from hardened shelters. Ballistic missiles, heavier and far more consequential, are elevated into firing position. You can feel the shift. This is no longer about absorbing a strike. This is about answering it in a way that restores balance, or destroys it entirely. The first launches don't target cities, not yet. They target symbols of reach, military installations, air bases, radar stations, places meant to prove that Iran can still see, still hit, still bleed its enemies in return. Some missiles are intercepted, others are not. Every impact is filmed, cataloged, broadcast. Narrative becomes a weapon now. In Israel, air defenses roar to life. Interceptors streak upward, turning the night sky into intersecting arcs of fire. Sirens howl across cities as civilians move into shelters, this time knowing the scale is different. This isn't a proxy attack. This isn't a one-day exchange. This is direct confrontation between states that have prepared their populations for exactly this fear. And then the map widens. U.S. bases across the region go on maximum alert. Patriot and Aegis systems track incoming objects in the seconds that matter most. Naval vessels reposition, their radars sweeping constantly. Commanders know the next phase could come from anywhere. Missiles, drones, cyber systems, proxies acting independently or under loose instruction. This is where modern war stops being linear. Every move now carries second and third order consequences. A missile intercepted over one country still sends debris into another. A strike meant to signal strength risks dragging a new actor into the fight. Markets open and immediately convulse. Oil prices spike before analysts can even explain why. Insurance rates for shipping skyrocket in real time. And behind all of it is a shared, unspoken fear. Escalation ladders don't always have brakes. Inside Iran, leadership delivers its message, measured, defiant, carefully calibrated. The language avoids words like war, even as war unfolds. The goal is endurance, survival, demonstrating that Iran cannot be bombed into submission without consequence.
Inside Israel, leaders speak with a different tone. This is framed as necessity, not choice, a last window before capabilities become unreachable. The public hears resolve. Privately, planners watch the retaliation unfold and ask the only question that matters now. Did we hit enough? Because if the answer is no, what comes next will be worse. Cyber systems flare, power grids flicker, Communications slow in ways that feel almost accidental, but aren't. This battlefield has layers, and many of them are invisible. Analysts track malware alongside missile trajectories. Intelligence officers monitor chatter, looking for signs that proxies, militias, armed groups, regional allies are about to activate. Some already have. Across the region, allied forces aligned with Iran begin repositioning, testing boundaries, probing defenses. Not full attacks yet, just reminders that this conflict doesn't live within borders. It spills. And here's the part no one can fully control: perception. Each side believes it is acting defensively. Each side believes escalation was forced upon it. Each side believes the other will blink first once costs become clear. History says otherwise. By the end of the first 48 hours, the narrative has hardened. The world isn't asking if this will expand, it's asking how far. Diplomats scramble, phones pressed to ears, trying to build off-ramps while the road is already on fire. Statements call for restraint, even as new strikes are authorized. Everyone wants de-escalation on their terms. And somewhere between the launches and the speeches, a line is crossed that can't be uncrossed. Because now, both sides have blood on the ledger. Now, deterrence has failed publicly. And now, the conflict has momentum. What began as a calculated strike is turning into something heavier, slower, and far harder to stop. The question is no longer who fired first. The question is, who decides to fire last?
The third day is when everyone understands the truth. Not from speeches, not from headlines, from movement. Satellites show it first. Columns of vehicles leaving known bases, dispersing into terrain mapped years ago for survival. Aircraft that haven't taken off in months suddenly do. Naval formations tighten. This isn't reaction anymore. This is preparation for endurance. Wars don't announce their permanence, they reveal it. Inside Israel's war cabinet, the atmosphere changes. The initial strike, Phase 1, did what it was designed to do: degrade, disrupt, delay, but it didn't break Iran's ability to fight. That was never guaranteed, it was only hoped. Now comes the harder question. How far do you go once you've started? Because partial success is dangerous. It invites escalation without resolution. Military planners present options that get progressively darker: expanded target lists, deeper strikes, facilities buried under mountains. Commanders speak in probabilities, not certainties. Civilian risk estimates rise with every slide. Someone mentions timing, how delay favors Iran's ability to adapt. Someone else mentions legitimacy, how the world is already splitting into camps. And hovering over everything is a single fear no one says out loud. If this doesn't end decisively, it could last for years. Inside Iran, the mood hardens. The initial shock has passed. What replaces it is resolve mixed with fury. State media stops pretending this is limited. The language shifts from resistance to survival, from warning to vengeance. The leadership frames the conflict not as a clash of armies, but as an assault on sovereignty itself. That framing matters. It buys patience. It buys tolerance for pain. Missile launches continue, but now they're smarter, timed, layered, designed to probe weaknesses rather than overwhelm defenses outright. Drones come in swarms meant to exhaust interceptors. Cyber disruptions become more coordinated. Nothing flashy, nothing wasteful. This is a long game now. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, the war expands sideways. Shipping lanes feel it first.
Insurance firms pull coverage overnight. Captains hesitate to enter waters that have suddenly become chessboards. A single incident, real or rumored, can halt traffic for hours, then days. Energy markets react not to what has happened, but to what might. Fuel prices spike in places thousands of kilometers away from any explosion. Factories slow. Airlines reroute.
Ordinary people who couldn't point to Iran or Israel on a map feel the conflict in their wallets. That's how you know it's no longer regional. At the United Nations, emergency sessions blur together. Draft resolutions circulate and die. Vetoes are assumed before votes are cast. The language becomes ritualistic. Grave concern, call for restraint, right to self-defense. Everyone knows the words won't stop anything. They're markers for history, not for peace. Back on the ground, civilians adjust. In Israel, shelters become routine. Schools close. Life compresses inward. In Iran, air defense drills become nightly rituals. Sirens part of the soundscape. Fear becomes background noise. People still go to work, still shop, still live. That resilience becomes its own weapon. And here's the cruel paradox. The longer both societies endure, the harder compromise becomes. Because pain that doesn't break you convinces you that more pain is survivable. Inside military intelligence circles, analysts start using a phrase they'd hoped to avoid: mutual escalation stability. It means both sides can keep fighting without immediate collapse. It means the war has found a balance, not peace, but persistence. That's the point of no return. Not when the first missile flew, not when the first base was hit, but when both sides realized they could continue, and chose to. Now, every strike carries a question inside it. Is this meant to end the war, or just shape the next week of it? Because once a conflict reaches this stage, endings don't come from force alone. They come from exhaustion, miscalculation, or catastrophe. And none of those are predictable. As the world watches the front lines harden and the rhetoric sharpen, one thing becomes clear to anyone paying attention. This is no longer about stopping something from happening in the future. It's about surviving what has already begun. And the most dangerous phase hasn't even arrived yet. By the fourth week, the explosions are no longer the loudest part. The silence is. Because beneath the missiles and airstrikes, another conflict is unfolding. Quiet, relentless, and far more destabilizing. A war most civilians never see, but feel everywhere. Networks go dark for seconds at a time, then minutes, then longer. In Tehran, payment systems lag. ATMs hesitate before dispensing cash. In Tel Aviv, traffic lights flicker out of sync. Airports across the region switch to manual backups. Nothing catastrophic, nothing accidental. Each disruption is calibrated, just enough to remind everyone that modern nations run on fragile code. This is the war beneath the war. Cyber units on all sides work without pause, targeting logistics, communications, finance, energy. There are no uniforms here, no flags, just operators staring at screens, launching attacks that cross borders faster than any missile ever could. You don't hear these strikes, you experience them as an inconvenience, as uncertainty, as unease. And unease spreads faster than fear. Meanwhile, the military campaign adapts. Israel expands its target set, not dramatically, but deliberately. Secondary facilities, support infrastructure, places that don't make headlines, but keep systems alive. Each strike is justified internally as necessary. Each one pushes the threshold just a little further. Iran responds in kind, but asymmetrically. Why match a jet with a jet when you can pressure allies instead? Why strike a hardened base when you can destabilize supply chains? The strategy shifts from punishment to erosion. The goal isn't to win tomorrow, it's to make tomorrow harder. And slowly, painfully, it works. Allied governments begin to feel the strain. Public opinion fractures. Some demand stronger action, others demand restraint.
Political leaders walk a narrowing line between resolve and overreach. Every decision now has domestic consequences as real as any battlefield loss. This is where wars are often lost, not militarily, but politically. Inside Israel, questions emerge quietly at first, not about necessity, but about duration. How long can this pace be sustained? How many reserve call-ups before the economy strains? How many nights in shelters before public tolerance thins?
Inside Iran, the calculus is different, but no less severe. Sanctions bite harder under wartime conditions. Trade constricts. Currency pressure mounts. Leadership relies increasingly on nationalism to offset material hardship. It works, for now, because identity can endure what comfort cannot. The regional picture grows more unstable by the day. Non-state actors test boundaries, not full offensives, just sparks, a rocket here, a drone there, enough to stretch defenses and force reactions, enough to make escalation feel omnidirectional. Commanders must now think in layers: air, sea, cyber, proxy, information. And then there's information. Every strike is framed. Every interception is spun. Every loss is minimized. Every success amplified. Social media becomes a battlefield of its own, flooded with clips, claims, denials. Truth moves slower than outrage, always has. For civilians trying to understand what's happening, the fog is total. And that fog is dangerous, because confusion breeds miscalculation, not just among the public, but among decision makers. When leaders start believing their own narratives, they lose the ability to see off-ramps. Intelligence assessments grow more cautious. Analysts begin flagging scenarios they hoped would remain theoretical. Accidental escalation, misread signals, a strike interpreted as something it wasn't. History is full of wars that didn't end because no one knew how to stop them without appearing weak. This one is starting to feel like that. Late one night, as another round of cyber disruptions ripples across the region, a senior official in a secure room asks a question that lands heavily. What does victory even look like now? There is no immediate answer, because victory used to mean disabling a capability, forcing a concession, restoring deterrence. Now it's tangled in public perception, economic endurance, alliance cohesion, and the simple ability to keep going without collapse. And the longer that question goes unanswered, the more dangerous the next phase becomes. Because when wars lose clear objectives, they don't end, they mutate. And the next mutation, still forming, still unnamed, will bring consequences no one has fully prepared for.
The shift is subtle at first. No declaration, no single moment you can point to, just a series of decisions made far from the front lines that quietly widen the war. A naval task force changes course, an air base opens to temporary support, a defense pact clause is referenced, not invoked, just mentioned. And suddenly, the conflict is no longer contained by intent, it's contained only by luck. In the Red Sea, merchant ships begin sailing in convoys again, escorted by warships flying flags that were never meant to be involved. The message is defensive, but the optics are unmistakable. This war now threatens global arteries, energy, trade, food, everything modern life depends on. Insurance markets don't care about rhetoric, they care about risk, and the risk is exploding. In capitals across Europe and Asia, emergency meetings drag late into the night. Leaders who spent years treating this rivalry as distant now face uncomfortable math. How much instability can the global system absorb? How many disruptions before domestic pressure forces intervention, military, economic, or diplomatic? No one wants to choose, but not choosing is also a choice. Behind closed doors, intelligence briefings grow darker. Analysts point not to what has happened, but to what hasn't yet.
Critical infrastructure still standing, escalatory tools still unused, red lines still untested. That restraint, once reassuring, now feels ominous, because it suggests capacity, and capacity unused is potential waiting for a trigger. Inside Israel's leadership, the conversation turns outward. Allies must be reassured, detractors must be deterred. Every message is calibrated to signal strength without inviting direct confrontation. It's a delicate balance, and one misstep could collapse it. Inside Iran, the rhetoric hardens further. The conflict is framed as proof of long-held warnings that compromise invites attack, that self-reliance is survival. The population is told to endure, not weeks, but as long as necessary. Sacrifice is reframed as honor.
That framing works frighteningly well. When wars become moralized, they become harder to end. Meanwhile, backchannels hum. Quiet messages pass through neutral capitals. Third parties offer mediation, face-saving language, phased de-escalation ideas. None are rejected outright. None are accepted either. Everyone wants a better hand before sitting down. But the cards are already on the table. Every day the war continues, the cost of stopping it rises. Politically, strategically, psychologically. Because ending it now would mean admitting that the opening strikes, so dramatic, so risky, did not achieve a final outcome. And for leaders who tied their credibility to action, that's a dangerous admission. Then comes the incident. Not the worst one. Not the one history will remember most vividly. Just the one that changes the tone. A strike lands closer than intended. A defense system misidentifies a trajectory. Casualties include people who were never supposed to be involved. Allies issue statements that are sharper than before. Words like unacceptable enter the conversation. Markets react instantly. So does public opinion. Suddenly, this war isn't just something happening over there, it's something demanding answers here. Protests form. Debates harden. Neutrality becomes harder to defend. And that's when everyone realizes the truth they've been avoiding. This conflict can no longer be managed solely by the people who started it. Too many interests are now entangled, too many systems exposed, too many governments invested, if not in victory, then in stability. The irony is brutal. The strikes that were meant to prevent a larger war may have made one inevitable, not because of intent, but because of consequence. As military operations continue with grim regularity, the real battle shifts to conference rooms, emergency summits, and whispered negotiations. The fight is now over control, of escalation, of narrative, of outcome. And control, once lost, is almost impossible to regain. Somewhere in the middle of all this, a realization takes hold among those watching closely. This war will not end with a dramatic surrender or a single decisive blow. It will end, if it ends at all, through exhaustion, compromise, or shock. And the most dangerous possibility is that it hasn't yet shown us how bad it can get.
There is a moment in every prolonged conflict when leaders stop asking how to win and start asking how to avoid disaster. This is that moment. By now, the war has its own rhythm: launches, interceptions, statements, denials. The world has learned how to watch it without flinching. That normalization is dangerous. It dulls urgency. It creates the illusion of control. But beneath the surface, warning indicators are flashing red. Intelligence agencies detect movements that don't fit previous patterns, units repositioning not for retaliation, but for survivability. Command posts shifting deeper underground, strategic assets placed on higher readiness cycles. These are not moves you make if you expect things to calm down. These are moves you make when you're preparing for the worst-case scenario.
Inside secure rooms, the conversation changes tone. Briefings get shorter, language becomes more precise, assumptions are challenged aggressively. Everyone is acutely aware that the margin for error has narrowed to almost nothing. One misinterpreted launch, one faulty sensor reading, one commander acting on incomplete data. That's all it takes. In Israel, air defense operators are exhausted. Interceptors are effective, but finite. Every successful defense still costs money, time, and attention. Commanders know they can stop most threats, but not all of them, not forever. In Iran, the pressure is different but equally intense. Leadership must project strength while managing internal strain. Too much escalation risks inviting overwhelming retaliation. Too little risks appearing weak, both externally and at home. It's a trap, and both sides are inside it. Meanwhile, diplomatic channels heat up, not publicly, but urgently. Messages are no longer about principles or blame, they're about thresholds. What actions would trigger uncontrollable escalation? What actions could be paused without losing face? No one trusts the answers, because trust is the first casualty of war. And then comes the scare. A launch is detected, trajectory unclear. Early warning systems light up across multiple countries. Analysts race to determine whether it's a test, an accident, or the opening of something far worse. For minutes that feel like hours, nobody knows. Markets freeze, flights are grounded mid-air, leaders are rushed to secure locations. The machinery of civilization pauses, waiting to see if the next few seconds will change everything. The launch turns out to be limited, contained, interpreted eventually as a signal, not an escalation.
But the damage is done, because now everyone understands how close the edge really is. That single incident does more to shift thinking than weeks of fighting. It forces a reckoning, not moral, not ideological, practical. How close are we willing to get to the point where no one can stop what comes next? Publicly, the rhetoric remains defiant. It has to. Backing down openly is politically lethal. But privately, something cracks open. Options that were previously dismissed are reconsidered. Sequencing plans are drawn up, not for victory, but for de-escalation that doesn't look like surrender. This is the quiet turning point no one will celebrate. Because it's not heroic, it's not decisive, it's just necessary. The realization settles in slowly, unevenly. Continuing on this path doesn't guarantee success, but it does guarantee increasing risk. And some risks can't be absorbed no matter how prepared you think you are. The war hasn't stopped, but it hesitates. And in that hesitation, fragile, temporary, uncertain, lies the first real chance for something other than endless escalation. The question is whether anyone will take it, because history is unforgiving to leaders who recognize danger and choose momentum instead. The pause doesn't feel like peace. It feels like holding your breath underwater, lungs burning, muscles tight, knowing you can't stay here much longer. Operations continue, but at a different tempo, fewer salvos, more spacings, targets reviewed and re-reviewed. In command rooms, officers start asking not what can we hit, but what should we not? That distinction matters. Signals are sent, not through microphones, but through omissions, a system left untouched, a window deliberately missed, an operation postponed without explanation. Each restraint is a message wrapped in deniability. We're still here, but we're listening. Back channels thicken. Intermediaries who were ignored weeks earlier are now called back. Drafts circulate with language designed to bruise pride as little as possible. Everything is conditional, everything reversible. That's the point, because no one trusts permanence yet. On the ground, people sense the change before they can explain it.
Sirens sound less often. Interceptors launch fewer times each night. Power stays on. Flights resume their old routes. Not fully, not confidently, but enough to remind everyone what normal used to feel like. Normal is seductive. Leaders understand this. They know the public wants relief, not resolution, stability, not justice. They also know how thin that patience is. One bad night could erase weeks of careful restraint, so the choreography becomes meticulous. Statements are timed to markets. Operations are weighed against headlines. Even silence is calibrated. In this phase, impulsiveness is the enemy. Discipline is survival. Inside Israel's decision rooms, the assessment is blunt. The opening objective, delay, degrade, deter, has been partially achieved, not decisively, but enough to justify a shift. Continuing at peak intensity now risks diminishing returns. Inside Iran's leadership circles, the conclusion is parallel. Endurance has been demonstrated. Retaliation has restored deterrence in the eyes of supporters. Pushing further risks international isolation hardening into something worse. Both sides arrive at the same place by different paths. Not victory, but viability. And viability opens a door.
It's not announced. There's no ceasefire banner unfurled across the sky. Instead, there's a sequence of small steps that only make sense when viewed together. Naval movements pause. Certain airspaces reopen. Messaging softens from absolutes to conditions. The war exhales. Experts will later argue who blinked first. They'll debate metrics and maps and kill chains. They'll miss the point. What mattered wasn't blinking, it was choosing not to stare. Because the longer you lock eyes in a conflict like this, the harder it becomes to look away without someone feeling humiliated. And humiliation is gasoline. As the days pass, the risk curve bends, not down, but sideways. The conflict doesn't end, it transforms from open confrontation to managed hostility, from fire to friction. Some call it frozen, others call it unfinished. Both are right. The region remains tense, capabilities remain, grievances remain. Nothing has been solved, but something crucial has been avoided. And that avoidance becomes the quiet headline. Not the one that trends, not the one that satisfies, but the one that keeps cities standing. In the end, the strikes of late February 2026 will be remembered not as an ending, but as the threshold, the moment when assumptions shattered and limits were tested. Everyone involved learned how close modern war can come to the edge without falling. For now, because deterrence rebuilt under fire is brittle, it holds until it doesn't. And somewhere, in some future briefing, a new clock will start counting down. The question isn't whether that moment will come, it's whether anyone will remember how close it came this time and choose differently when it does.